A struggling waitress notices a tech mogul's tattoo, identical to her disabled father's. But when she mentions it, the champagne glass slips from the billionaire's hand, shattering across marble floors as every head in the restaurant turns to stare. "What did you just say?" The woman's voice cuts through the sudden silence like ice, because that simple observation just exposed a lie that destroyed 3 lives for 25 years. The Sapphire Lounge glittered with Manhattan's elite, crystal chandeliers, designer suits, cocktails worth more than weekly rent. Caitlin Bett moved through it all like a ghost, invisible in her server's uniform, balancing trays while her aching feet screamed for rest. 70-hour weeks, medical bills stacked on the counter, a father lying on a pull-out couch in Queens, his amputated leg, a permanent reminder of the towers that fell on September 11th, 2001. This was survival, nothing more. Then Caitlin saw the tattoo. Helen Jacks, worth $12.7 billion, sat in the corner VIP booth reviewing her tablet. Forbes called her the Phoenix of Silicon Valley, but Caitlin only saw the intricate phoenix rising from flames on her forearm, identical to the one her father had worn her entire life. Same design, same flames, same date underneath, September 3rd, 2001. Her father's words echoed in her memory. "I got it with someone I loved at MIT. Then 9/11 happened, and when I woke up in the hospital, she was gone. Her family said she'd moved on, so I let her go." Caitlin's hands trembled as she approached the table. This woman could be the reason her father spent 25 years alone. The reason Caitlin grew up counting pennies, dropped out of NYU, worked herself to exhaustion just to keep them afloat. "Excuse me, ma'am?" Her voice barely held steady. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I noticed your tattoo." Helen's sharp green eyes met hers with clear irritation. "And? Point of no return. My father has the exact same one, Jonathan Bett. He got it at MIT with someone he loved, but she disappeared after 9/11. The tablet clattered to the table. The champagne flute tipped, crystal exploding against marble in a spray of glass and golden liquid. "That's impossible." Helen stood so fast her chair scraped backward. The color had drained from her face completely. "Jonathan's family told me he died in the towers. They said he was gone. They said," her voice cracked. "My father is very much alive," Caitlin whispered, tears burning her eyes. "He's a disabled firefighter who lost his leg saving people that day." The restaurant had gone silent, every eye fixed on them. "Take me to him." Helen's hands shook as she grabbed her purse. "Right now, please. Because sometimes the most expensive thing money can't buy is the truth." And 3 people were about to discover exactly what 25 years of lies had cost them. The Mercedes ride to Queens felt like crossing into another universe. Helen sat rigid in the back seat, fingers twisted together, staring at her tattoo like she'd never seen it before. Caitlin perched on the edge of the leather seat, phone clutched in her hand. "Dad, someone from your past is coming, the one with the tattoo." She'd sent the text 20 minutes ago. No response. "Tell me about him," Helen said suddenly, her voice hoarse. "Please." Caitlin's jaw tightened. "What do you want to know? That he can't afford the back surgery he needs? That his prosthetic from the VA hurts him more than it helps? That I dropped out of college to take care of him?" Helen flinched but didn't look away. "I want to know everything. He saved 3 people from the North Tower before it collapsed on him." The words came out flat, bitter. "Lost his leg, lost his career, lost you. The VA barely covers his prescriptions. We live in a studio apartment. I work 70 hours a week and it's still not enough." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the city sliding past the windows. Manhattan's gleaming towers giving way to Queens' worn buildings. "I searched for him," Helen whispered. "After the towers fell, I went to every hospital in New York. For 3 days I barely slept. Then his mother," her voice cracked. "She told me he didn't make it, that he was gone. I had to identify someone else's body because she said his was never recovered." Caitlin's anger wavered. "What?" "I left Boston because I couldn't bear to stay in the city where we'd been so happy. I threw myself into building my company because working meant I didn't have to feel anything." Helen's mascara had started to run. "Every success, every billion. I kept thinking Jonathan would have been proud. I carried him with me even though I thought he was dead." The car pulled up to Caitlin's building, cracked concrete, peeling paint, a world away from the Sapphire Lounge. They climbed the 3 flights of stairs in silence. Caitlin's hands shook as she unlocked the door. Her father sat on the edge of the pull-out couch, tears already streaming down his face. He'd heard Helen's voice in the stairwell. "Helen." Her name broke on his lips like a prayer. "They told me you couldn't handle seeing me like this, that you'd already left Boston, moved on with your life." Helen crossed the small room in 3 strides and dropped to her knees in front of him, sobbing. "They told me you were dead, Jonathan. Your mother looked me in the eyes and told me you were gone." Caitlin stood frozen in the doorway, watching 25 years of grief and lies shatter between them. "Oh, God," Jonathan whispered, pulling Helen close. "What did they do to us?" Helen didn't sleep. By 6 a.m., she'd arranged appointments with Mount Sinai's top orthopedic specialists, paid 6 months of Caitlin's rent, and transferred $50,000 to Jonathan's account for immediate expenses. Money was the only language she spoke fluently anymore. At the hospital, Dr. Patel reviewed Jonathan's scans with a grim expression. The damage from the collapse caused severe spinal compression. You also need a specialized prosthetic. The current one is causing additional joint damage. "What's the cost?" Helen asked before Jonathan could speak. "Total treatment, surgery, rehabilitation, and prosthetic, approximately $380,000. Schedule everything. I'll cover it all." Jonathan started to protest, but Helen cut him off. "Please, let me do this." In the corridor afterward, Caitlin cornered her. "You can't just throw money at us and pretend the last 25 years didn't happen." Helen's composure cracked. "What else can I do? I can't give him back his leg. I can't give you back your childhood. I can't undo what my absence cost you both. You can stop acting like writing checks fixes everything. Then tell me what will fix it." Helen's voice echoed off sterile walls. "Because I've built an empire, and I'd burn every dollar of it if it meant going back and finding him in that hospital 25 years ago." Caitlin's anger deflated into exhaustion. "Nothing fixes it. That's the point." 2 days later, Helen stood on the porch of a comfortable home in suburban Boston. Jonathan's mother answered, older but still sharp-eyed. "You," the woman breathed. "Me?" Helen's voice was ice. "Why did you tell me he was dead?" Jonathan's brother appeared behind their mother. "We thought you'd leave him anyway. You were always so ambitious. You stole 25 years from your own son." Helen's control shattered. "You stole his daughter's childhood. He lived in poverty while you knew I had the resources to help him. You watched him suffer and did nothing." "We thought we were protecting him," his mother said weakly. "No, you were protecting yourselves from admitting you were wrong about me." Helen turned away. "Jonathan knows everything now, and he'll decide if you deserve forgiveness. I already know you don't." Back in New York, Helen told Jonathan the full truth. He sat silent for a long moment, then quietly asked her to leave. That night, Caitlin found him crying on the couch. "All those years," he whispered. "They let me believe she'd abandoned me. Let me live in pain when she could have helped." Caitlin held her father as he grieved, not for his lost leg, but for the lost life they'd been denied. Outside, Helen sat in her car, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, and finally let herself break. 3 months later, Jonathan took his first steps on his new prosthetic leg. The bionic limb responded to nerve signals, moved naturally, didn't cause pain. He walked across the physical therapy room and laughed. Actually laughed, for the first time in years. Helen watched from the doorway, crying quietly. She'd become a regular fixture in their lives. Awkward family dinners where she tried too hard, bringing groceries, sitting with Jonathan during his recovery, learning to exist in their small apartment without making it about her. Wealth. "I'm re-enrolling you at NYU," Helen announced one evening over takeout. Caitlin's fork clattered against her plate. "No." "Caitlin, I don't want your guilt money." Helen's patience snapped. "It's not guilt money. It's what I would have paid if I'd been here. It's child support, college funds, birthday presents, 25 years worth." "But you weren't here." Caitlin stood, hands shaking. "And you can't buy your way into being my whatever you're supposed to be to me." The silence stretched painful and raw. "Then what do I have to do?" Helen's voice broke. "Tell me how to earn it." "You can earn it. That's what you don't understand." Caitlin grabbed her jacket. "You just have to show up every day, not with money, just show up." Helen insisted they try family counseling. Jonathan was skeptical. Caitlin was hostile. But they went. Week after week, they sat in uncomfortable chairs and said uncomfortable things. "I'm angry at my family," Jonathan admitted. "But I'm also angry at myself for believing them so easily." "I buried myself in work after losing you," Helen confessed, feeling nothing was easier than feeling everything. "I'm terrified of letting you in," Caitlin whispered, "because everyone leaves eventually." Progress came in inches, not miles. Caitlin's 27th birthday arrived. She expected nothing. Birthdays had always been quiet affairs marked by dollar store cards and homemade cake. Helen showed up with a leather-bound photo album. "I kept these," she said softly, "even after I thought Jonathan was gone." Inside, photos of two young people madly in love at MIT, their matching tattoos freshly inked, laughing at coffee shops, studying together, planning their future. "I never forgot 'em," Helen said. "Every business deal, every company I built, I kept thinking Jonathan would be proud of this." I carried him with me. Jonathan's hands trembled as he turned pages, seeing his young self smile back. Caitlin felt something crack open in her chest. She stood, crossed the room, and hugged Helen for the first time willingly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for remembering him, for remembering to love him even when you thought he was gone." Later, Helen asked quietly, "What do you want, Caitlin? Not what you think you should want. What do you want?" Caitlin answered honestly, "I want to finish school. I want to be a nurse. I want to help people the way the nurses helped Dad after 9/11. "Then let's make it happen," Helen said. "Together." 6 months later, Jonathan walked into the fire department consulting office without a limp. His new prosthetic was seamless, responsive, painless. He was helping other departments create better disability accommodations for injured firefighters. He was whole again. Not the same, but whole. Caitlin was back at NYU thriving in her nursing program. She came home tired but fulfilled, talking about anatomy classes and clinical rotations with genuine excitement. Helen had cut her work hours in half, spending more time with them, learning what family actually meant. One evening, she proposed an idea. What happened to us, being separated by lies, by lack of resources, it happens to thousands of families. What if we did something about it? They created the Phoenix Foundation, free medical care for disabled first responders and their families, educational scholarships for children of 9/11 survivors, family counseling services. The launch event at a Queens community center drew crowds. Caitlin gave the speech. "My father ran into burning towers while everyone else ran out," she said, voice steady. "He saved 3 lives and lost his leg. He spent 25 years in pain because lies kept him from the person who could have helped. But one tattoo changed everything. And now we're going to make sure other families don't have to suffer the same way." The applause was deafening. The story went viral. Billionaire reunites with lost love after 25 years. Jonathan's family reached out, wanting to reconcile. "No," Jonathan said simply. "You don't get to be part of this. You had 25 years to tell the truth." Helen supported his decision, though privately she struggled with her own feelings about forgiveness. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Helen and Jonathan spent increasing time together. Old feelings surfaced, tentative, scared, but real. They'd both changed, aged, been scarred by life. But the connection remained. One evening, Caitlin came home early and found them on the couch, holding hands like nervous teenagers. "Oh," she said, frozen in the doorway. "Kate," her father started. "No, it's fine. I just need a minute." She retreated to the bathroom, heart pounding. Did she want them together? Would it feel like a betrayal to the years they'd struggled alone? Or was it healing? The family they should have been, finally taking shape. She emerged 10 minutes later. "Are you two together?" "We're taking it slow," Helen said carefully. "If that's okay with you." Caitlin looked at her father's face, genuinely happy for the first time in her memory. "Yeah," she said softly. "It's okay." At a foundation event, a reporter asked Helen, "Do you regret the years you spent building your empire instead of looking harder for Jonathan?" Helen looked at Jonathan and Caitlin, then back at the camera. "I regret the lost time, but I don't regret becoming someone who has the resources to help thousands of families avoid what we went through. Everything I built, I can now use for something that actually matters." The reporter smiled. "What's next for the Phoenix Foundation?" Helen took Jonathan's hand. "We're just getting started." 2 years later, Caitlin stood in her cap and gown, waiting to receive her nursing degree. The auditorium buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of graduates, thousands of proud families. She scanned the crowd and found them, Helen and Jonathan, sitting together, both crying already. They'd taken things slow, but they'd rebuilt what was stolen. They were together now, not the young, naive couple from MIT, but something deeper, forged through loss and found again. When Caitlin's name was called, they stood and cheered louder than anyone. At the podium for her student speech, Caitlin looked out at the sea of faces. "We're told that healing is linear," she began. "That broken things stay broken, that lost time can never be recovered. But I'm here to tell you, that's not true." She told her story. The tattoo, the reunion, the foundation. The audience sat transfixed. "A tattoo brought us together," she concluded. "But love keeps us together. Not the easy kind of love, the hard kind. The kind that forgives, the kind that rebuilds, the kind that says it's never too late." I'm going to work at Mount Sinai's trauma unit, helping amputees and their families navigate the same journey my father did. because that's what phoenixes do. We rise, and we help others rise too. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. At the graduation party, Jonathan's brother approached Caitlin privately. "I know I can never make up for what we did," he said quietly, "but I want you to know I see what you all built from the ashes of our lies, and I'm ashamed, but I'm also in awe." Caitlin studied him. "I don't forgive you for my father. That's his choice to make, but I'm choosing not to carry your mistakes forward. I'm choosing to build something better." He nodded, tears in his eyes, and walked away. The surprise came after dinner. Caitlin rolled up her sleeve to reveal fresh ink, a bridge spanning from one forearm to the other, delicate and strong. "The phoenix represents what you survived," she explained as Helen and Jonathan stared. "But a bridge represents what we built, a connection across impossible distance, across time, across pain." Helen broke down completely. Jonathan pulled both of them close. "I love you both so much," he whispered. The Foundation's new Manhattan building gleamed in the sunlight. Inside, a wall of photos showed their impact. Families reunited, first responders back on their feet, kids graduating college. Over 10,000 lives changed. Helen, Jonathan, and Caitlin stood before it, hands linked. "We lost 25 years, Helen said, "but we're not going to waste another day." Jonathan squeezed their hands. "To the phoenix that brought us together," Caitlin smiled, "and to the bridge that keeps us together." The Foundation sign glowed above them. The Phoenix Foundation, rising together. 5 years later, Caitlin, head nurse of Mount Sinai's trauma unit, walked down the aisle in a simple white dress. Jonathan walked beside her, no limp, completely healed, crying openly. Helen officiated. She'd gotten ordained specifically for this moment. "Love isn't about perfect timing," Helen said, looking at the couple, at Jonathan, at Caitlin. "It's about showing up, every day, through pain and joy, through loss and rebuilding. That's what makes us family." At the reception, the three of them gathered for a photo, arms around each other. 3 tattoos visible: Jonathan's phoenix, Helen's phoenix, Caitlin's bridge. 3 people who'd been torn apart by lies and brought together by truth. "Some stories end," Helen whispered. "Some stories are stolen, but the best stories, they find a way to begin again." The camera flashed, capturing the moment, a family reborn from ashes, rising together.